Hi everyone. This episode of the podcast was recorded live on stage at SHUX, so the audio quality isn't great, but we're just going to present it as it is. Hope you enjoy it.
They say the truth is the number one stopper. They say you think, but you never want to speak up. They say you're hot and now you're busy, but what's on your mind, kid? What's on your mind, kid? They say out loud there will never be me, but they're the main ones that lie through the door.
Hello everybody and welcome to Board Game Barrage, a podcast about board games, the latest hotness, and how to have fun with your friends even when you're losing. As always, I'm your host, Quintin Smith, and I'm joined today by my co-hosts, the Red Tank, Kellen.
Hello.
The Orange Tank, Neilan.
Hello.
And the Green Tank, Mark.
You know what? That was pretty good. I think. You know what? You're hired. And you go.
We found our third.
There's a new tank in town.
He's not as mean as me.
Oh, I can be mean.
So thank you all for coming out to taping of the Board Game Barrage podcast. As Quinn so eloquently said, we are Board Game Barrage. We're a podcast out of Los Angeles. Quinns was kind enough to invite us to SHUX, and we were thrilled and honored to get that opportunity. So we're really glad to be out here with you guys, and hope we have a good show.
Boom!
Boom.
Boom.
So, we don't just only take, we're not just taking Quinns' offer, we also give, givers. So we have I'm sure you all know, we have a world famous Hall of Fame that we call the Armory, where we have people select tank colors. Paula Deming was our first one. She's the Orchid Tank, so she's among the Armory. So now, Quintin Smith, you are hereby inducted into the Board Game Barrage Armory.
I lost the paper.
Oh, okay.
Just pick a color, Quinns.
Pick a color?
Any color.
Any color.
Except red.
Board games give you a choice. You're telling me I can have any color?
Any color.
Can I be the black pear-colored? You're telling me pear-colored?
Yeah, pear colored.
That's green. The pear-colored tank.
Look,
I am profoundly unconvinced by this. No, I wanna be the goth one. Can I be the black tank?
Black tank.
Is that free?
That's free?
Yes!
You can have
There it is.
Wow.
We usually have a turret that we use to complete the ceremony, like a queen with a sword, but that was taken in custom, so you're unfortunately can't do that.
Oh.
But this is normally where we would get into the meat of the games we've played and what we're looking forward to. But Quinns was kind enough to mention us the first time in his newsletter, talking about a review of Hundreds of Horses. So there is no way that we're going to start this show before we play a game of Hundreds of Horses. So we're going to play a game of Hundreds of Horses. The way this works is we're going to be giving you a word or a phrase, and you're going to pick the horse that most embodies or invokes that word or phrase.
Okay.
So I think of like apples to apples, but with horses. So it's like the combination the world's been crying out for. Apples to apples and horses. So, Cal, take it away.
Yeah, can we get the PowerPoint up?
There we go. Oh, here you go.
Okay. So, let's talk about this. We're going to start with an easy one.
Yeah, a warm-up round. This is a warm-up round.
This is not copyright infringement. I did not scan these cards. So, judgmental. So, let's all talk about which of these horses is most judgmental.
It's definitely A.
A is like a clear easy
Yeah,
choice,
he's
I
like
think.
curling, sneering his lip.
But B sort of looks like he's above it all. You know, he's like sitting.
He's literally sitting. He's below it all.
Could care less. There's a judginess to that.
Are we straight up eliminating C and D?
Yeah, I think D sort of has like a hair whip thing where it makes me feel like he thinks he's too cool for school.
In the actual game, isn't it about picking a horse and then sort of like we reveal? Or are we just gonna sort of do this democratically and just judge horses?
We're just doing it democratically. I mean, we could ask them. What do you guys think? Oh, wow.
That's
divided.
more C than I expected.
Wait, people have C? Who's voting for C?
There's
Why
one,
C?
no, two.
It is sort of prancing as
yeah,
well. Yeah, I get
It's
that.
beautiful.
Let's see that.
All right, okay, so let's move into the meat of this game. Go on.
Yeah. All right, so I think we picked A? No, okay. All right. Anyway, the game gets funnier, so here's a story example, so I'll read this to you.
Is this from the game?
Yeah. Of course. What do you mean? I didn't make this up.
High-class operation we got going on here.
Wait, hang on. So, which horse is judgmental is a real card in the game?
Yes.
Absolutely. What are you talking about? Of course.
Now we
We
get.
just used the cards as they were given.
It gets worse. It gets worse.
I feel like I'm being gaslit.
It's here. This is
Give me
yours.
it. Like, you know what? Okay.
All right. As a halter show horse, Milord hates the many hours he must be clean before he's paraded in front of the judges. All he really wants is a simple life of eating and sleeping, not first place ribbons.
Another sitting horse. I just want to point out another sitting horse.
Wow.
It's A.
I don't know, guys.
I feel like when you described this game on the podcast before, I thought, oh, this is a light bit of party game fun. I feel paralyzed by choice. I didn't know hundreds of horses could inflict AP on...
This is a serious game, Quintin.
You can actually acquire the horses in the game too, which makes it even harder because you really want one.
I'm going to pin my... it's got to be A, hasn't it? It's got to be A?
You know,
It's definitely
I'm
A.
going D because hates being paraded and he's just sitting down. He's had it.
No, you're right. You're right. I've made a fool of myself.
You have to think deep when you play hundreds of horses.
Oh, my God. Okay.
All right, now the clincher, the final round.
And this is the last round. This is also in the game, 100%.
It's 100% true.
Matt Lees has a long, striking mane that makes all the other horses jealous. He prefers this natural look to the short, pulled mane he used to have.
Gotta be B, right?
A looks like a horse who's seen some
Stupid
You know
stuff.
what? I'm going to defer to you when it comes to the Matt Lee's horse. I think.
You know him the best.
Yeah.
He makes all the other horses jealous. He prefers this natural look to the short pulled mane he used to have. Wow. I mean, I think Matt's hair is really good, but that said, it's got to be B, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's gotta be B.
Yeah.
Gotta be B.
B. There you go. There you go.
That is hundreds of horses.
1 out of 3. 1 out of 3, according to the audience. That's...
So we've already given you the immortality and the fame of being part of the armory, being a tank.
Yes, thank you very much.
We're going to give you even more.
Okay.
We're going to give you what people might say is the ultimate gift.
What? Oh, do I? My lord? Oh, no, that's a horse.
Are you giving this to me for real?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, you guys. Thank you. I was going to make a joke, but now I'm genuinely moved by this gift. This is going in my board game collection. You know, don't take this the wrong way, but I have a space in my board game collection for games, like there's a shelf for games that aren't good.
Wait, I don't understand. So why would this be going on that?
Well, it's going to be going there. However, it's games that aren't good, but that mean a lot to me. So thank you.
We'll take it.
It's from Ravensburger?
It is.
It's from like a real board game publisher, not like
What's that supposed to mean?
nothing. Let's move on.
All right, so let's talk about games we've been playing. We had a chance to walk around the exhibition hall and play a couple games. Neilan.
Yeah. So we were demoing Deep Blue, which is by Days of Wonder. This is a push your luck deck building game, sort of. So the idea is you have a sort of map of these ocean spots and you're sort of treasure trawlers. So you're going to sort of sail out to spots, deep dive, try come back with treasure. You start the game with like this basic deck of 4 cards, and every turn it's either you're moving your ship, calling a dive, or resting to get more cards back in your hand. So you start with 2 boats. I think you already have 2 boats actually. And you're moving out to these spots on the board. And at some point you might be like, okay, I'm going to go here because I'm going to get the benefit of saying, if I were to go on this dive, I would get maybe an advantage on that dive. And at some point, other ships would sort of gather around to that spot. Someone calls a dive and it becomes a pressure luck game. So there's this bag of gems that you pull from, and they're either going to be sort of gold, silver, different values, or some of them might be hazards. So whoever called the dive becomes the dive master and decides for the rest of the crew on that spot when the dive is over. So it's got the element of like, well, you're coming along with me, like whether you like it or not. And hopefully the dive master is like better prepared for the hazards, because like if you pull like a hazard or an oxygen tank, then you have to either have the ability to defend against it. Otherwise the dive is over and everyone walks away with nothing. So it's got that fun sort of like, you know, there's also an action where you could just get more cards.
Yeah, like a multiplayer pressure luck.
Right,
sort of thing.
exactly. It feels a little bit like Celestia, a little bit like Deep Sea Adventure,
Yeah.
but just in a bigger, more substantial game. How do you guys like it? Well, you didn't play it, but
Yeah, I didn't
Kellen, how do you think?
I liked it a lot. I think it's Days of Wonder, so it has that really nice production value.
Right.
And Celestia, I think, is the best example, but Celestia sort of goes too long. You've played Celestia, right?
I did. I've actually played Deep Blue as well.
Oh, cool.
And you love it.
You know, I do. I feel disappointed. There's a yearly tradition I have that Days of Wonder put out a game that looks great, and I get excited, and it's bad.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled because Deep Blue is as good as production as anything Days of Wonder put out, and I love it. I think it's really strong.
It seems solid. My one, this is not really a concern, but like it feels a lot like Deep Sea Adventure, which is a much smaller box game that is easier to break out. But this is obviously a much more elaborate, like it's got the deck building affair in it, so it feels solid to me. Like, yeah, I'm excited to play more of it for sure. Cool.
You know, one of the elements in it I really like is that, because it is a deck building game as well, where you've got this shop of cards and you're buying cards. But where most deck building games, you draw automatically, and then when your deck runs out, you reshuffle and draw again.
Right.
Deep Sea has this resting mechanic. Oh, Deep Blue?
Deep Blue, yeah.
Deep Blue.
Thanks. Ooh, yeah, I'm the professional on this podcast, you can tell. Yeah, Deep Blue has this lovely mechanic where you can rest, and you get 3 random cards from your discard, which leads to this fun thing where, because I'm always a player who pushes things way too far, and so I always want to spend every card in my hand before getting them back. But then if there's like 7 or 8 cards in my discard, I don't know what I'm getting back.
Right.
But if you have the ability to just pay attention, if you spend the 3 best cards out of your hand, then immediately rest, you get the 3 best cards back.
Yeah.
So there's a neat, small, family-friendly bit of hand management that, I don't know, nothing about the game is complicated, and I find everything about it quite clever, which I think is what makes it really well positioned to be a Days of Wonder game.
You know what's like another not complicated hand management pusher?
Oh my God.
That's like
Talking.
incredible.
What?
Biblios.
You know.
You know it. There you go. Yes, come on.
That's your one Biblios reference.
Biblios reference. Had to be in there. Had to be in there.
No one clapped when you said Biblios. It's when you went like this.
No, I was just pushing them up. They were starting, but I had to encourage them.
I see.
That's about it for Deep Blue. It's on the floor, so you guys can check that
Yeah.
out.
Tell me how you're playing.
Yeah.
So another game we got to try this morning was Curios from AG. Curios? Curios. Multiple
At least 2 Curios.
Curios.
Yeah, no, not Curios.
Curios is a 15-minute...
Sorry, did you say Biblios?
No, please.
That's your one Biblios reference.
I'm telling you.
We just need you to say a bunch of things for us, Quinns. Like, can you just say better than Biblios?
No.
Please.
Cut his mic. Cut Mike.
No, I'm feeling an alliance in this
Can you-
table.
Oh, alliance.
Can you say room 606 for me, please?
Room 606.
Can you say a Sandy Peterson game for me, Quinns?
A Sandy Peterson game.
I love it. I love it. Curios is a very simple deduction game where there are 4 sites that you are playing pawns to collect gems, and each gem is going to be worth 1, 3, 5, or 7 points at the end of the game. But you don't know what it is, and so there's a set of 1, 3, 5, and 7 for each color, and everyone has information related to what that site is not. So essentially, I have a hand of cards, and if I had 3 red cards, 1, 3, and 5, then that means the 4th red is 7, and all the red gems are worth 7 points. So that would be a tremendous hand to start the game with, because you would have a lot of information about what's going on. And so everyone has that shared information about what each site could be worth or not worth. And then you play a very simple 10-minute game where you are playing pawns, collecting gems, and then at the end of each round, you can acquire more pawns if you give up some of your information. If you're willing to tell everyone, hey, the 1 red is here, meaning red is going to be worth at least 3, then you can acquire a new pawn. And so it's a super, super light, simple game. This is like a thinkier filler. It reminded me of Cursed Court, another game we really liked a couple weeks ago. It's so small and simple that I just want to buy it. I probably will before we leave.
You think so? Weirdly, I've actually played this as well.
Okay.
I actually didn't like it at all.
Oh my God.
I don't know. Okay. I mean, I played it a few weeks ago. For me, there was hearing you talk about Cursed Court on the couple of podcasts ago. Cursed Court sounded like everything I wanted Curios to be, but then I haven't played Cursed Court, so maybe I'll hate that too. But yeah, I felt that there wasn't enough information to make interesting decisions. It felt a little bit more like a crapshoot, but
it's only 15 minutes, which is a nice trade-off for me.
I hear you.
I think that's fair. Deduction games are not really, I don't really like them overall. Like Sleuth is like way too try hard for my brain. Like I just can't. But this is, it's almost like, why is everyone ignoring red? If you don't have any red cards in your hand and everyone else is ignoring red, it's like, what is going on? And it's almost like this vague feeling. You feel that they know something that you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't actually have to deduce anything.
Yes, I think maybe that's it. Maybe.
Yeah, I almost cursed.
Yeah.
You don't have to deduce. Beep. No. What the? Come on.
You get it. You get it.
That was flawless.
Yeah.
Just like you practiced it.
I will say the thing I did like about it is like even in that situation that you described where you have the 1, 3, and 5 in your hands, like you're just going to go barrel hard into red in that case, which means you're instantly giving up all the information you have. It does have that curse chord thing where acting on the information is also revealing it. Yeah. So I liked that interplay a little bit.
You know, I think what it maybe is then is that in Cursed Chord, it sounded like you could make big plays. You could
That's
say,
true.
I'm going in
Yeah.
and doing
Right.
this. Here we go. And you could be wrong or right. Whereas Curios, Biblios, had a, sorry, I'm thinking about Biblios now. Where Curios is like, you have to bet. Like, there's no
Right.
sort of like, it has that very peculiar thing of when you place the archaeologists down where every round you're going to put down some dudes.
Right.
You know, rather than, all right, that's it. I'm putting 8 dudes on this site.
Sure.
You know, it's,
it gives you like, I guess, less room to bluff as well, which,
yeah.
But like compared to other boring fillers, this is a less boring filler.
You know, here's the thing. My standards now have, like, I feel terrible now in general because, you know, people will say, I like this. And I'm like, okay. It's, I'm a terrible guest. Let's move on.
There you go. I played Obscurio, which the elevator pitch.
Obscurios?
Obscurio.
Did you say Curious?
Obscurio. The elevator pitch is Mysterium with a traitor, which is sort of interesting. The way it works is there's a clue giver known as the Grimoire.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I don't know. I'm looking to you.
Wait, you didn't play this one, Quinns?
No.
Wait, you've played every game though, right?
Say again?
You've played every game that we've talked
Apparently
about.
not. I'm kind of relieved. I want to hear about this game. I haven't played it.
So the clue giver is trying to get the magicians or the mages to guess a card that is sort of like a Mysterium Dixit style card. So they look at this card and then they draw 2 cards of the same type randomly. And then they put them down and they have these little pointers where they point out some aspect of the card. So like the initial card might be a skull, a white skull. And they draw 2 cards and there's nothing really pointing to a skull. So they might have the pointer point to like a white part of the card. Or maybe like to an arm or a finger indicating like body part or whatever. So you take these 2 randomly selected cards and try your best to indicate parts of it that will have the magicians guess that target card. And then the trader opens their eyes. Everybody closes their eyes. The trader opens their eyes and they can pick a card or 2 from an array of cards that are the same Mysterium style cards. So they don't know the trader doesn't know what the target card is, but they know what the clues are. So based on the clues you've given, they look at the clues and they pick a card that they think the other guys are going to select. They're trying to pick the Mysterium style card that is most likely to get picked based on the clues that have been given. So they're trying to pick it. And so the cards that the trader picks, plus the target card, plus a couple random cards are shuffled up. They're laid out, face up, and then the players need to place their token on which card they think is the card that the clues point to. And obviously the trader is there trying to lead them astray, but not too much, and have themselves revealed. There's also a timing element where if you take too long selecting your tokens, subsequent rounds are harder. I like it a lot. I'm a big fan of Mysterium. I feel like maybe I've played it too much and maybe it goes a little long.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, this feels like a shorter experience. And also the trader aspect, I don't know. Neilan was a trader as he always is.
Right.
But the trader aspect felt a little less pressure.
I did feel that, yeah, because at best, you know, there's an eye closing part where everyone closes your eyes, trader open their eyes, and they reveal like 2 fingers, 3 fingers for which cards you want to add to it. So it feels a little bit looser. You have information to go on, which is pretty solid. That is going to like help you decide what cards to add to the array. So yeah, it did feel like that pressure.
That's one thing I think is sometimes a negative with hidden trader games is the pressure. Like Spyfall, a lot of people don't like playing it because of the pressure you feel if you're the spy. So that was a nice aspect of it. And yeah, I just think if you like Dixit, Mysterium, you want to add a hidden trader element to it, it seemed like a nice way to go.
But what about like Detective Club?
There were things about it that reminded me of Detective Club for sure.
Yeah, it felt a little more structured to me than Detective Club.
Okay.
It felt a little more nebulous, but yeah, Obscurio.
Is Obscurio the game where you have cards that cover up parts of the
Yes.
cards?
So every round you reveal 1 or more trap tokens that can affect, like throw a wrench into the clue giver's plans. And so one of them is like put this film screen on top of the cards you're using to give clues to sort of obscure some of the aspects of it to make it harder to give clues. So, and there's a lot of those little like interesting ways to make the game more difficult.
That's neat. I like that.
Yeah.
The one I loved is like one of them is just a red filter you put on top of it because
Yeah.
often you're like invoking color and suddenly that all just gets thrown off by it, which is great.
That's awesome. I find it really interesting now that we all sort of acknowledge that games like Spyfall and the Resistance are stressful. And then as soon as you have the distance and you see it, it's like, oh yeah, no, of course they are. But that means that for a few years, we were all playing these super stressful games without noticing.
Right.
Like there was a feel-bad moment in the game that it took years for the board game community to be like, hang on, this feels bad at times.
Right.
But we kind of didn't, we just accepted it blindly.
Right.
His favorite game is Resistance.
Right.
Still.
So
he hasn't.
To recap, let's recap.
What are we recapping?
Quinns for Resistance, down. Doesn't like it.
No.
Let me just for you.
I don't like this.
And Biblios, big fan. So 1 point for me, 1 negative point for Neilan.
I'm not sure that's how that works.
I think that's how it works.
I don't like, okay, sure.
We just
Your show, your rules.
we need to get you to say very provocative things. That was
Okay.
sort of what we wrote at the top of the whiteboard
Get
for like
Quinns to
say stuff
say.
so that it's clickbait so that people will download the. Okay, never mind.
We wrote all that.
So the topic of the episode is Quinns hates resistance.
Yes.
No, what? Stop. Help. This is terrible. I don't like this. Shall I talk about
Yeah,
a game?
sure.
I've
What are
been
you
playing?
playing?
Yeah.
I've been playing a game that is, oh gosh, it's extremely difficult to condense the explanation, but I've been playing Vast, the Mysterious Manor.
Oh, the new one.
Yeah, the new Vast. So if you're not aware of Vast, it is a unbelievably ambitious thing from later games, them makers of the original Vast, very asymmetric game, and then Root. And out of the gate, if you know anything about Vast, I would say this is a lot better than the original. I think later games have really improved just about everything about Mysterious Manor. So what we have here is a board, which is a board of tiles, and we're representing a big spooky house that will slowly be explored. The roles that you can mix and match, it's not even fixed. Probably the first three you might play with are, there's a paladin who kicks open the door at the start of the game, and then he's here to kill a spider. And this probably, depending on, like everything I'm saying is like, unless you're
Contingent,
playing
yeah.
with a different thing. So, but then another role is a spider who needs to become so scary that the curse is broken and then they can leave the house. They become scary by scuttling around in the dark, putting webs in places, and laying eggs, and drinking blood. But the spider can't kill the paladin, so the spider is permanently running away. The skeletons, one person can play a team of spooky skeletons who win if they kill the paladin. So that's kind of how I've been playing a lot with 3 players, like a weird triangle of... The Mysterious Manor theme works so well because it is like that Scooby-Doo thing of a bunch of spooky people running around in a house all trying to kill each other. It's very Addams Family. But you get weird stuff like with that setup. The spider might be like, ooh, next turn the skeletons are in a really good position to beat the hell out of the paladin. So the paladin will have to hold back, which means I can lay an egg quickly. Oh, I didn't. I was trying to make a pop sound on the mic. But yeah, you squirt out some eggs and then... Oh, God, but it's awful because if the paladin kills your eggs, they get loads of experience, which means they level up, which means the skeletons can't kill them, which means, oh, God. But hey, it gets more complicated. So there are 2 more roles. One person can, if they want, play the house. So the house, and this is awesome. And while I have misgivings about the game, this is great. So you've got all these house tiles, right, that are being mapped out, corridors and T-junctions. If you play the house, at the beginning of your turn, you can spend a certain number of action points rotating tiles, sliding them. You also slide anything that's on them. So thematically, you get this amazing Alfred Hitchcock zoom thing where the paladin can round a corner, see the spider, and then the spider just slides away from them as the corridor elongates and then maybe it rotates at the end, creating a wall. Because what the manor is doing to win is the manor has this big ghost, which the ghost can't interact with anything. But they... Oh, God, the explanation is so long. The ghost gets a hand of Tetris shapes, some of which are big, some of which are short. And the ghost has to run around the manor and create runways of like 1 to the right, 3 up, 1 to the right, with nothing in it. No skeletons, no webs, no eggs, no lanterns that the paladin leaves behind. And if the ghost can create those runways and do like zip and do little zips, they get points. And if they get enough of those points, they leave. So then they win.
Okay.
So the ghost is trying to stall the game out while drawing weird shapes.
Okay.
Is there one winner, or is it...
There's only ever one winner, yeah.
And it's point-based?
Well,
Sort of.
Let me recap. The paladin wins if they kill the spider.
Okay.
The spider wins if they get enough terror and then leave via the front door. Skeletons win if they kill the paladin. The ghost wins if they do enough of these weird Tetris shapes. Let's talk about the warlock. The warlock, another role, the 5th player, and can create a network of, there are ghosts that get put down in the house as you explore. There's also treasure that gets put down in the house. The warlock wants to get to those before anyone else and curse them, and then create a network of cursed ghosts and cursed treasure chests. So basically that's the thing. And then you can play with any combination of these roles. But first off, don't. Oh my God, the game is so slow.
Right.
So it's more interesting than Vast. It's faster than Vast. It's more exciting than a lot of individual roles. It kind of works.
Okay.
I've played it multiple times, and I should stress, the first Vast, the Crystal Cavern.
Yeah.
I played it, I think, a couple times and went, no, God, no.
Yeah,
But this,
we had the same reaction to the two Crystal Caverns. Like,
right.
yeah.
So Mysterious Manor, I've played it now 5 times. And while none of those games have been like top tier, that was amazing, I keep coming back because it's really interesting.
Is there some sense that you might end up at the conclusion that you have with Root, which is sort of that once you've solved all the factions, that's the fun? Or I'm really condensing
No,
your
sure,
opinion,
no.
but-
The problem is a little different from Root for me. Where I landed with Root is that there's definitely a sort of correct way to play Root. You could have tournaments of Root. You could not have tournaments of Vast the Mysterious Manor, I don't think. It's a lot sillier. It's a lot more thematic. One of my last games, I had a peculiarly frustrating moment with the Paladin where the Paladin finds treasure, and every treasure is a buff, and the Paladin levels up, and every time they level up, they get a power. And then the skeletons have like 14 different abilities that they unlock, and all of these abilities is its own rule. So it's a lot more thematic, a lot more Ameritrashy.
Okay.
But that led to feel bad moments for me where it's like, as the spider, you lay an egg, but then the Paladin opens a chest, gets magic boots, sprints halfway across the house, kills an egg, and you're like, well, I guess I'm waiting another 15 minutes for my turn.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would say that the good thing about Vast and Mysterious Manor is that your turn feels great and exciting. Waiting for your turn and watching other players undermine you is not necessarily great. But to be fair, this is an almost impossible task they've laid out for themselves.
Sure.
And it kind of holds together.
Okay. And did you find like it was substantially easier to teach than Crystal Caves? Like I found that was really frustrating about that.
Teach is easier.
Okay. But you still kind of have to understand everyone's roles.
Yeah,
to do
and then
well.
a little bit. You don't have to understand what other people do, but then it's just like they smash the crap out of you, and that's not ideal. Yeah, teaching it is still a bear. And then also there's just tons of edge cases, because it's so thematic. It's like, it's a lot of 2005 era Googling of like, can the Paladin's Pillar of Light be circumnavigated by the skeleton's this ability?
Right.
Can the giant spider bite people through walls? Yes, it can.
Oh, not a guess.
Yeah, because it's stuff like, I hate Googling this stuff, but the giant spider says it can attack adjacent spaces.
Right.
But if there's a wall, is the space still adjacent? Right. Yes. So the spider can attack through walls. So that's a thing that happens.
Right.
But a lot of uncomfortable Googling. And again, later games, they've set themselves an impossible task and they've basically kind of sort of done it. And if you like Crystal Caverns, you will probably love Mysterious Manor. But for me, I don't know. I keep playing it and looking for that great game. And it's not quite landing for me. But if you like thematic stuff, it might be a fascinating, lovely thing.
I think your creepy Google searches have netted you on some lists in Palo Alto, California.
Oh, you reckon?
I reckon. Why are there spiders in my walls? There's a lot of... It's kind of creepy.
Yeah, my favorite of that I mentioned in the Too Many Bones video is I ended up Googling stuff like Too Many Bones problem. and it's like, well, there's these pills you can take. That was pretty good.
Cool. Okay, so let's move on to our featured topic.
I was genuinely not briefed on this. What are we talking about?
Wait. Yeah, you were.
Rolling?
Unspoken truths.
What's that?
You were.
Yeah. Well,
I can tell you what yours is, in fact.
Yeah?
This is totally normal.
What is happening? I have no memory of this conversation. You guys talk, and it'll come back to me. It's fine.
Yeah.
So, unspoken truths.
Oh, I remember. Okay.
Did I say unspoken truths already?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, nice. Great. Perfect, we're right back on track. So, unspoken truths. So, these are things that we believe to be fundamental and true to board gaming, the board gaming hobby, but maybe aren't clear or put to the forefront or whatever. So, just things that we think are very important or are necessary that maybe aren't talked about a lot. Right. So, they were unspoken. We're going to speak about them now. Neilan, speak about yours too.
Yeah. Mine is sort of just generally about theme in board games and how, for the large part, it's just handled badly. I feel for the most part, as different forms of media go, like television, film, books, the way that board games handle storytelling, outside of tabletop RPGs, which I think did as well as you possibly could, is pretty bad. If you were to look down, essentially the best games, I went down, the top 50 list on BGG, and, there are various vague historical themes, vague agricultural themes, vague historical agriculture themes, and then a lot of Cthulhu. And that's pretty much it. And I think even when you're sort of doing one of those very broad overplayed themes, there's a way to inject flavor and not excitement, maybe that's overselling it, but a way to sort of inject interest into it where you evoke something through art and through flavor versus just like either barely touching the topic or overselling it. One of my favorite things is when a rule book just has like these pages of lore. Like we had Kellen read the Terranoth intro a couple of weeks ago.
The thing you had to cut out of the podcast.
Right, exactly.
Because
Because I'm struggling to imagine like someone's written this full page of the description of Terranoth and anyone would read that and be like, this is it. This is my jam.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So what you're saying is that boring themes are popular, or that theme is just bad?
I think that there's not enough onus on developers to create interesting and exciting themes. I think we sort of just tacitly accept that it's good enough.
Is what you're saying comparable to narrative in video games, where storytelling and writing in video games is often approached too late, last?
Exactly.
And so it's just something that is not handled well and instead of left on the table.
It seems to be mostly handled as an afterthought. Like we talk about pasted on themes, and I think that's very prevalent, where you're designing purely mechanically first and then sort of have the theme as an afterthought.
Yeah.
And I like the idea that you would more thoroughly invoke the theme through the mechanics or through flavor text or through art in a way that sort of like fires the imagination versus either just being droll or like barely there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just feels like something that's like a personal bugbear of mine that I feel like the industry needs to take more seriously, but doesn't.
Bugbear's not a word.
Is it not?
No.
It is a word.
Well, a
It's
phrase,
definitely a
I
word.
guess.
Okay. Are we responding? Are we?
Well, we fight him. I mean, he just called out every publisher and said, all
I just said all games are bad.
all
so
your themes are...
come at me.
No, I am 100. Oh.
All your themes are... That didn't work.
You said it, not me. And I would say, no, I 100% agree.
Are there any games that you think integrate themes especially well, or some like target that designers should?
At the very least, games are sort of trying to do their own thing. Like, I'm going to say Scythe and sort of get the glares from Kellen immediately. But I think the thing that Scythe does well is it evokes an interesting place, an interesting setting, and does it mostly through flavor and art.
Right.
Like, you can imagine the place, the setting, without it being spelled out explicitly.
Yeah. I think for me, it's funny because you get boring themes like Food Chain Magnate or Flamme Rouge.
I was going to say Food Chain Magnate is actually an interesting example because it's on paper, it's a boring.
Yeah, exactly. But I actually think Flamme Rouge is maybe a better example because it's so boring and bicycle racing is so boring. But Asger Granerud, whose second name I can't pronounce if you listen to this, Asger, I love you, I'm sorry. But he's really into cycling. And you can tell because it's like set in the 1920s, the golden era of stupid looking cyclists. And it's like there were going to be pictures of cyclists in the game. So they knew they had to make that art asset. But in making it a 1920s thing, it's got color, it's got flavor. And similarly with Food Chain Magnate, they know it's going to be about food, but then it's weird stuff like Zeppelins and...
Right, exactly.
But it's the idea that you have to do it. Your game will have to have theme. You have to have cover art. So when it's not interesting, then it just feels like such a waste.
Absolutely. And that's kind of thing, especially like as we get into like more generic sci-fi and fantasy themes, it's like the possibilities of what you could sort of evoke with art are endless.
Yes.
And I feel like most people don't.
The only thing I would say, the tip I would give designers is it doesn't matter what you're I mean, maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe this isn't the way to actually get your game to sell. But for me, it doesn't matter what your theme is. As long as make it something that you care about.
Right.
Because if you care about it, you will probably add all those little touches that like everyone responds to.
And it will come across to people playing the game.
Exactly. Gloomhaven, I think, is a good example of that.
Right.
Or Too Many Bones, both could have been generic fantasy games, but they're just a little, Too Many Bones especially, it's like someone cares about this universe. Right. Although, to be fair, the counter-argument to my own point, so I'm undermining myself, is Terranoth was a world that someone really cared about. Terranoth was Fantasy Flight ex-CEO Christian Peterson's D&D campaign. That's what Terranoth is. Twilight Imperium was his sci-fi role-playing world.
Sure.
So
it doesn't always work.
Yeah, with the greatest respect to Christian, ideally it's something you're interested in and maybe other people are too.
Right.
Helen.
I just wanted to talk about interactivity. I think interactivity has sort of been my hot button the entire time we've done the podcast. I think that we are in a state where the board game industry is discouraging interactivity and pushing it out of game design. And what it does is it smooths off the edges of board games and makes everyone have a pseudo pleasant experience. but it gets rid of the highs and lows of what board gaming can offer.
Wow.
How do you feel?
So you're saying that the sort of the thing that came with Catan and Eurogames, where you get the softer, less interactive thing, the overall bleed of those ideas into board gaming in general is a bad thing?
I would not go that far. I would say that we could quote one of the greatest novels of all time, The Count of Monte Cristo. You must needs have wished to die to know how good it feels to live.
Yes, okay. And I will admit that if you... Okay, I don't know why it falls to me again. I will give you that all the highest highs in my board gaming experience have come from interactive games. If I made a list of the top 30 moments and the worst 30 moments, they would all be due to interactivity.
I think there's something that we discovered on the podcast that I just wanted to retread here for a hot minute, which is this concept of parallel play. I don't know if you're all familiar with this, but it's actually children go through 4 to 6 stages of human development in play. It starts with unoccupied play, moves on to solitaire play, onlooker play, and then parallel play. So parallel play is when kids are playing games next to each other or playing with toys next to each other, but they're not directly engaged. It's an important element of childhood development because you can learn some of the rules through looking at them, but you cannot interact with them. Most scientists agree that you get out of this stage by the time you're 3 years old. And then comes social play and associative play. So the modern multiplayer solitaire game is discouraging the type of interaction that makes board games so great.
That's amazing. But also, so like, do you think that humans having their own separate dinner plates is a step back from like a shared plate?
I mean, I don't think that scientists do, so. I think it's just an interesting trend and an interesting thing to look at, which is the hybridization of some of our more Ameritrashy games. And I love a good Euro game. Twa is one of my favorite games ever, but it has that element of allowing you to do something to another player. And I think a multiplayer solitaire game, inevitably the puzzle solves itself. If you've played it 5 times and you've solved the puzzle, that game has nothing more to offer you. And if you have a game that is full of players engaging with other players, those moments are endless because you're actually trying to solve the person. And that's sort of, for me, what board gaming is about and what we're in danger of losing.
But there's that like communal aspect of solving a puzzle together, but which I think that's something that I enjoy and you don't, right? Like puzzle solving as an activity.
How old are you, Neilan?
I've clearly regressed to parallel play. But
I think that roll and writes are, obviously are a classic example of something that is fun, but ultimately, I think, limited and detrimental to the hobby. There, I said it.
I will say that we do have this idea now that Eurogames are solitary, but some of I feel the heaviest hitters, like, of that era, from Germany, games like El Grande,
right.
Or, but an example recently that's coming back with a new bootlegging theme, Hansa Teutonica. By the way, I've seen Quanchai Morea posting he's doing bootlegging era art for something. It's too much to hope for, I think, that it's a Quanchai version of Hansa Teutonica.
That would be.
But I don't think it is. I think Hansa Teutonica will look like garbage. But Hansa Teutonica is amazing because it's got a lot of Eurogame stuff. You've got your own board, you move cubes around, but it is one of the meanest, most blocky, interactive games that I've ever touched.
You would say that a lot like Euro games have moved away from that from the days of Hansa and El Grande and stuff like that?
Yeah, and Lancaster. I think you look at Agricola, or Agricola, however you want to pronounce that.
Sorry, does anyone in this audience pronounce it Agricola?
Well, some of our game group does. God, someone raise their hand, please. Christina. Blue tank? No. All right. You look at Agricola, and then you look at A Feast for Odin, which in some ways has some iterative elements. And the worker placement in Agricola is much tighter, is much meaner, is much blockier than A Feast for Odin. So even Uwe Rosenberg is taking something and smoothing it out and letting everyone have a chance to get every space they want with just a little bit less efficiency.
Yeah.
That feels bad, man.
That's a good one, though. When it gets to me, you guys, this is all huge, big picture stuff, and I picked something so lame. But it's fine.
Mine is actually fairly close to Kellen's. I think there is not enough of an emphasis on winning. We did our last episode, we went over the Magic the Gathering. They classify players into 3 categories generally. There's the Tammy player who's all about playing big actions, big moves. There's the Johnny Jenny who is looking for combos and doing interesting, trying to express themselves artistically in their card play. And then there's the spike. And the spike
is a try hard. Who's listened to this already? It came out yesterday. Whoa. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. So the spike is the one whose primary motivation is winning. I am a spike, but I think that spikes and people who make it known that they're interested in winning or that winning is a primary motivation are, I feel like, often looked down upon. And I will say, I'll be the first to say that my worst gaming experiences have been with spike players who are like ultra spike. The ones who are just like play their action like boom, 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 move, and then like head down, no conversation. Like they never give you take backs. They're totally unforgiving. That's the worst. That is absolutely the worst. But I think the opposite, where there aren't stakes, it takes something away. It lowers the stakes. It takes some of the heightened feeling of the game away. One of the best things about board gaming is the ability to like be with your friends and make new friends and the social aspect of it. But we're playing a board game. That's what we're doing as friends. So if we don't care about winning, like I understand there's fun in the playing of the game, but if we're not playing to win, if we're not introducing that competitive dash in there, let's just go watch a movie or let's talk or let's have coffee. Like we're there to like.
Do you say this to players who, when you realize they're not trying to win, you're like, let's start?
Oh yeah, no, I to the sheet I read from when people are. But
it's the social contract, right?
Right, exactly.
Right.
It's like the idea of like the magic circle. Like we're all here, we're all friends. We're gonna talk trash, and even though I'm a spike player, I love when people talk trash to me. I'll be self-depreciating. I just like, even if it's a fake heightened state, I just think that introducing that competitiveness and that spice to the game, I think it makes you bond with people in ways that you normally would not be comfortable doing. You might normally not want to like jab somebody and, say a joke or whatever, but when we're all like playing this game, it gives you like a pretense to have those moments where you can like get a little personal, like a little joking personal. And I just think the bonds get tighter when you do that.
I think Quinns, we were talking the other day and we all kind of just didn't agree with you, but didn't know how to like say it to you. We were talking about
that's
Inish.
always good to know.
We were talking about Inish and you're like, yeah, it's fine. It's an hour in and I can't win or I probably can't win. So I'm just going to give up and crown a new king because that's what the game is about. And
Whoa. I mean, no, go on.
And the way that we play is so cutthroat and so competitive and so fighty that if we can't win, we're going to make sure someone else comes down with us.
Right.
It's archipelago. It's
more than that, like, even if we've gotten to the point that we know we can't win, we're going to fight as hard as we can for second place or just to advance our position.
Okay. But board games are things that tell stories, right? Board games are not, although all board games tell stories, even things like chess or checkers. And if you're playing chess, really, you're just trying to win. But there's still, stories within chess of like sportsmanship and villains and heroes. Right. The thing is, winning is, we all agree to win, and it's certainly important for players to all try and win, because obviously it's terrible when players check out and if players just don't care about winning. However, I would say that part of when you enter a sort of like social and emotionally rich story, for me, I often, like, what's worse? Would you rather win a game and the second place is the person who has been annoying you the entire game, or would you rather like lose and then that person like comes? Sorry, I'm not.
Okay, wait, but we'll get there. Neilan, this is a hot question. Say it.
Oh, yeah. A hot question?
Okay, no, I'm gonna get there, everybody. I'm gonna get there. What I'm saying is, I often don't mind if I lose a game, but I hate if someone who has been annoying to me and harmed my experience of the game wins. That is what I'm trying to avoid. Like, if I play TI and someone's just a jerk and they win, that's a horrible day.
Right.
I don't care if I lose, that's fine.
Right.
So, but the reason Inish then works for my group is it's like, if someone's mean to you, who cares about winning? The game is about helping everybody else. And that's why the theme and the storytelling of Inish works for the staff of Shut Up and Sit Down. Because it's a game about finding a king. And there's gonna be scuffles, and there's gonna be little betrayals. But ultimately, if you're good to me, I'm happy with you winning.
But isn't there a concern that meta, for lack of a better term, poisons the game? Like, people worry about, if you're introducing things that are not part of the game into the way you're playing it, and the idea that shouldn't be.
But there's no avoiding that, especially when you play big games like Twilight Imperium, or I just played Western Empires recently. which is a huge, 13-hour game. When you play those thematic war games, have you not had that moment of like, someone does something awful to you and you're like, right, I don't care about winning, I'm going to crush this player.
Right, absolutely.
But isn't that you breaking the social contract according to what you've just been telling me?
Yeah, maybe when you're not going to win, the winning to you becomes taking somebody else down. But I'm just saying, the important thing is that adding of the competitiveness.
So I guess what I'm saying is, you seem to agree that, taking someone else down, that's all right.
Right.
But we have a richer hobby than that. I'm saying some of my favorite moments is helping other people up. You know, like if you play Werewolf in Blood on the Clock Tower, yeah, betraying people is fun. But also the warmest and best moments in that game is finding out you trust someone and helping someone. So that has to be part of the weird contest we're having.
I mean, how often do you get moments where you're helping players? I mean, I guess in social deduction games you would get that, but I don't know.
Well,
I
think this is because I was really interested when I was listening to you guys talk about Twilight Imperium and you having questionable experiences with it. But for me, Twilight Imperium, because it's such a rich fabric of like culture or like this artificial culture you're making, I love in TI when you just have a friend.
Right.
You know, when you have an ally and they've been good to you and you've been good to them, and it forms a stronger and stronger bond until like backstabbing isn't. They just wouldn't do it.
Right.
You know, and that actually for me is a great game of TI that like, I made a friend, which is why it's my favorite war game. Cause yeah, when you start playing TI, you don't know if you're going to end up in, this horrible war of eradication to kill that species that assassinated your president 100 years ago.
Right.
Or you're just going to get along with everybody, and the story can go any way.
I think that's funny. It reminded me of stat tracking, cause I was going to say, how do you track assists in a board game tracking app, because we only track wins here in terms of win rate. But it reminds me of video game design where they actually have obfuscated kills and assists. So many modern FPS shooter games make a kill as important as an assist for the end player. So if there was some way that you could inject that into a board game where you helping someone else actually contribute.
Yeah, you just don't be a dick. Like... the injection.
Well, that's not possible.
Well, right. I feel like this problem is coming from inside your house.
I think it would be cool if a game if the design like enforced or encouraged that sort of behavior, because I love the idea of like playing TI purely as an alliance, but the game doesn't always like tangibly reward that.
But again, it depends on how much you connect with the story.
Right.
Like, because TI is really interesting because, in Twilight Imperium, the story is who's going to rule the galaxy? And often the answer isn't me, it's not that guy.
Right.
And it's amazing because TI actually has something that Cosmic Encounter has, which is players can help each other win. Of course, Cosmic, you can share the win, and that's one of the reasons it's very interesting. But in TI, I don't know if you know this, but in the new edition, there's a card called Support for the Throne. TI is a race for 10 victory points. If a player gives you their support for the throne, you get a victory point. Like, it's enormous, and it's very rarely used. But if a player was just about to win in TI, and they just made the game horrible for everybody, players can all agree. It's like, Kellen, we're all going to give our VP cards to Kellen, and then Kellen's just going to win. But to stop another player from winning. And for me, that would be an awesome game of TI because it would be us putting aside our differences to make sure the fascist doesn't get in charge.
And the fascist is Neilan in this case, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. Quinns, what is your unspoken truth?
After those incredibly big questions, my thing is, it is an unspoken truth in my house that I feel when you play a card in a game from your hand, I'm doing this. I want to put in a dungeon all the people who don't read the name of the card first. So people who play cards in a game that's like, if you're playing Root, say, you play a card and it's like, bam, you have to remove 2 of your pieces now.
Right.
It's like, why? Like, there's a picture on the card, there's a name, there's flavor text. You're keeping that to yourself, you selfish piece of work. If you don't read that, you're denying the flavor that is put into the game to everybody. It should just be a moment of grace to be like, I'm playing ambush. You have to remove 2 of people because they've been ambushed. Because otherwise you just force me to go, what's the name of the card? And they go, oh, ambush. And it's like, great. You remove the reveal, you remove the storytelling, you make other players work. And also you make the game weirdly callous. I'm reminded of that discussion you had on the podcast a while back. It's like, why don't we reduce games to some of their mechanics? It's like, because there's more there. It's like, why do we have to read the names of the cards? For the same reason they put it there in the first place,
Are you a big fan of like reading the flavor text in general when it comes to it?
Depends on the card. I think actually something that Shut Up and Sit Down's been thinking about a lot is when flavor text is good or bad. And actually, it should even be written in special ways. First off, for the love of God, don't make people read long blocks of text unless it's the game, like Consulting Detective.
Right.
Keep it short. Also, things like don't force players to read things like, quote, I'm going to destroy all of your people, said the woman. It's like, oh, no, you're right. The woman says, I'm going to destroy all of you, because then you can do a different voice, or like anger, like you've got to write differently if you know players are going to read it aloud. But what TI Fourth does, among all the clever things it does, the flavor text is like 6 words long. So for like direct hit, it's like, we've done it, Captain, or like, I'm the Death Laser. It's not the Magic the Gathering thing of Tarquin sat upon a frosted field and thought about the giant that he'd made. This giant will kill people, but and it's like multiple lines. Keep it really short, and then players might read it.
Sure. What was with Pax Pamir that had half the card?
I actually love. Have you played Pax Pamir or?
I've played Pax Pamir. I really didn't get along with it, but that's it.
Aside from the actual gameplay, I love the historical flavor text in those games. Like Pax Pamir, Pax Renaissance. There's just so much history there. And I feel like every time I get a card, even when it's not my turn, I can read it and learn about these people from history. I just think it's really rich. And it also connects you with the theme.
Right.
You envision these people who actually lived and these events.
Yeah.
So it sort of connects you into it.
It's almost like this very different thing where that just feels like rewarding to the person holding the card in their hand. Like, I wouldn't want to like read out half a textbook worth of text every time you play the card in that case.
You never read them all, but just having all this rich history in front of you feels really cool. I'm a big history fan.
But isn't there some onus on the publisher? And we can't escape without an anti-Stegmaier comment. You're welcome, Neilan. Like, the event cards in Scythe are like, take one resource, take 2 resources, take $1 and a resource, and they all have names. But like, they mean nothing. And like, you can trim it down so quickly to what it actually is, which is just a Euro efficiency engine. And isn't it the onus on them to make that thematic connection so that the name of the card is relevant?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But in the same way that it's like, I think players can stop playing if a game isn't fun. I think players don't have to read the flavor text if it's bad.
Right.
Like, I would never have my friends be like, no, you have to read out the 4 fingers of flavor text on this card, if it's not good. But then, it is. It's something the publisher has to do. They have to make the theme good. They have to, they have to actually think about this stuff. They have to think about, if you're playing a card, it's for players to read out, and then,
All right. I think that's going to do it for our discussion, and that's going to do it for the show. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you all very much.
Yes,
Thank you guys so much.
And thanks to Quinns for joining and for inviting us. This has been great.
Thank you very much for my copy of Hundreds of Horses.
There you go. That's right.
So are you the Gothic tank or the Black tank?
Oh, I'll be Gothic tank.
Tank.
No, that's more what I was going for, yeah.
Nice.
It's not a color, so I've kind of messed up your system.
No, it works.
Yeah?
We love
Got
it.
it.
Boom.
That'll do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys
Thank
so
you,
much for
everybody.
coming.
Bye-bye.
Really appreciate it.
I'm hot. I'm ready. I want you to save me from myself, baby.
Deep Sea has this resting mechanic. Oh, Deep Blue?
Deep Blue, yeah.
Deep Blue.
Thanks. Ooh. Yeah, I'm the professional on this podcast, you can tell. Ooh, 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 ooh. Ooh.
Can you just say better than Biblios?
No, I'm feeling an alliance. I'm thinking about Biblios now. A Sandy Peterson game.
I love it.